The fight is not yours. You have to fight. When you hit the enemy, it should be death, not injury. You must be effective. Without inspiring the men, you can't do the type of activity that is expected of a soldier. Trying to be humble may make you very pretentious. It is better you have pride. Accepting failure is a dangerous process. It's better you learn not to fail. You're in the forces. Failure may mean death. You can't learn after that. Namaskaram. Namaskaram to all of you. It's a great privilege and honor to be talking to the bravest men of Bharat.
Namaskar, Sadhguru. On behalf of Air Vice Marshal Pawan Mohe, Vishesh Seva Medal, Commandant, College of Defence Management, I extend a very warm welcome to you for this interaction with officers and ladies of the College of Defence Management. It is indeed my honor to conduct this evening's session on the topic of engineering for combating adversities. Adverse circumstances and situations are an integral part of a life for a soldier and their families. As soldiers battle the enemy on our borders, our families hold the home front and encounter numerous challenges with utmost courage and perseverance. However, we've been born into an unpredictable and an imperfect world as finite human beings who have shortcomings, who make mistakes, face decision dilemmas, and carry our own set of worries. There is much to contend with, and our ability to handle adversities is limited. While our unabated inquest to seek answer continues, we are indeed proud and privileged to have amongst us Honorable and respected Sadhguru, a yogi, a visionary humanitarian, and the most widely followed global spiritual leader. In 2017, Sadhguru was conferred the Padma Vibhushan, one of India's highest civilian award accorded for exceptional and distinguished service. Sadhguru bridges the gap between known and the unknown, enabling all to explore and experience the deepest dimensions of life, which give us an insight into the finite energy and delight that makes up the universe. Without any further delay, I would now address the first question to respected Sadhguru. Sadhguru, as per the karma theory, karma is accumulated impression of past activity, either of thought, emotion, or physical action. During operations, as a professional soldier, I am expected to obey the orders of my superior authority, as also resort to actions which may result in injury or death of another human being. Which karma account will have to enter this transaction? Mine, my superior military authority, further senior commanders, and the upward list could go on. Could you please throw some light on it?
Namaskaram. My utmost respects to all of you, brave men, and above all your families who bear the brunt of your bravery in many ways, of daily living in suspense and anxiety about your well-being. So I bow down to all of you for this. See, when it comes to a fighting force, well, you did not start the fight. When you hit the enemy, you are not hitting for personal pleasure. You are fulfilling a larger purpose. This is important that we do not mix up philosophies of life which are manufactured in our heads with the realities of our existence. We are still not in that kind of a world, or we have failed to create that kind of a world. The failure is mine and people like me. Because we have failed to create a world where the world will embrace each other, everybody will embrace each other and live in love and joy, such a thing we have failed to create. Men like you have to fight. It is still the reality. Anybody who is denying the reality for themselves will pay a huge price. I think we as a culture, as a land, we have paid this price already centuries before that, because we thought we can deal with life with philosophies, a few hundred men who came from elsewhere managed to conquer us, rule us, do all kinds of things to us. Even a business company which comes ends up ruling us for over 250 years. So, it's time to understand in free India, a soldier should know the fight is not yours. You're fighting our fight. You're fighting because of my failure to be able to create a loving and joyful world. So you have to fight, and when you fight and when you hit, you said it may cause injury or death. I know this will be shocking for people that I say this. No, when you hit the enemy, it should be death, not injury. That's not a good thing, because you're not a police force, you're a fighting force on the border. You will fight only with those forces which will threaten the nation. So, you must be effective, you should not be fluffy with philosophy. Well, we have a famous teaching in the country. I'm not an expert in this, I have not even read it in its real sense. But someone who is supposed to be godlike, a divine entity, is encouraging another person who happens to be a warrior, whose head is fluffed up with philosophies. So all that the divine entity is trying to do in the form of Arjuna and Krishna is that he's trying to bring some practical sense. You're a warrior, you're on the battlefield, and now your head is fluffed with philosophy. This is not going to work. To put it very bluntly, this is all the teaching is. Because your actions have to be relevant for the situations in which you exist. If you go into the battlefield and you don't hit the enemy the way you should, and you come back with your karmic stuff, your karma in a nice flowery way, this is very bad karma because nation's resources are being wasted and the possibility of what it could bring to the country is another thing. So it's very, very important that we need to understand there is an existential situation, there is a psychological and emotional situation, and there is a social situation. These are all not the same things. So, a fighting force handles a certain existential reality that still human beings have not come to this point where they can hold hands and live joyfully with each other. We've still not come there. Hope we get there. It's an ideal, but it is not something that we will see immediately. It is going to… I don't know how long we will take, but we should not give up the ideal, but till then, we have to manage the practical as it should be.
The next question, Sadhguru. As we grow up in the armed forces, sometimes the circumstances around us compel us to take autocratic decisions. Over a period of time, these become rigid habits which some of us unknowingly display in form of arrogant behavior. While professional competence and ambition is necessary to climb up the ladder, one important quality of humility continues to be ignored as too many leaders think that they can't be humble and ambitious at the same time. Could you please highlight the importance of humility for any leader and how do we develop this essential skill?
So, that means somebody is trying to be a commandant even at home with the family. I think by now you should have discovered it doesn't work. Well, this habit of giving orders should not become a habit. It is important. Once again, I stress, in a fighting force, which is not a normal kind of social situation where we can sit down and debate about everything. No, once a leader says something, others, whether it makes much sense to them or not, sometimes they just have to do it because there are moments in our life, there are situations when we are in intense activity where there is no room for debate. Debate should happen elsewhere. There cannot be a debate on the battlefield. Again, I'll go back to Kurukshetra, this is a debate on the battlefield. If you take up the Bhagavad Gita and read, I don't know how long it'll take to read that 18 chapters because I have not, but I believe it'll take at least 4 or 5 hours. So if you stand with your enemy army standing there and for 4-5 hours if you're debating, you know what is your fate. So that's exactly what Krishna is just trying to tell Arjuna, this is not a time to debate. So officers have to even if that is not their natural way, they have to be a certain level of command and force, otherwise those situations won't work. But if you try the same method everywhere, it won't work either. About humility, see what a leader needs is, he needs integrity first of all. Integrity means, in your thought and emotion, everything that you do is not about yourself, it is about the larger well-being. If this becomes your way, if this is your sense of integrity, integrity is not just a bunch of morals or values or ethics, integrity means that your intentions have become larger than personal. Your intentions are not about your well-being, it's always about larger well-being. As long as this is fixed and you have this integrity, you don't have to try to act like a humble pie, it's really not necessary. Integrity must be there, and above all, people will respect a leader because he has some insight. Because when you say a leader, in some way, either a society or an organization or a force like yours places you on a perch. If you sit on a perch, you must see something more than what others are seeing. If you sit on a perch and still don't see any better than those who are down there, then you will become an object of ridicule. So it's very important that an officer or a leader must develop insight. If there is no insight, if you don't see things clearly, then all that'll happen is ridicule, not really leadership. And another important aspect is, as a leader, it is not by words that you can inspire people. Inspiration is very, very needed, especially in a force like yours. Without inspiring the men, you can't do the type of activity that is expected of a soldier. If this inspiration has to happen, it's not just about inspiring words. Nobody's going to listen to those words. The important thing is you live in such a way that you burn with such intensity that people cannot help catching fire and be intense along with you. So inspiration, insight and integrity, if these three things if you have, you don't have to be humble. What is humility? Let's understand this. Humility comes to you not because you pretend a certain kind of behavior. Trying to be humble may make you very pretentious. It is better you have pride in what you're doing. When you have pride in what you're doing, when you're very proud of what you do and how you do, then it takes care of you stepping on other people. And above all, if we understand our position on this planet, in this cosmos, this solar system is a tiny speck. In this tiny speck of a solar system, planet Earth is a microspeck. In that microspeck, India is another speck. In that super micro speck, your battalion is a super micro speck. In that, you are a big man, this is a lot of trouble. If you just understand, we are a speck of life. Nature has given us, creation has given us so many privileges of experiencing our life individually. But if you look at the life of the planet and who we are a small pop-up and we will pop out one way or the other. If we understand the context of the time that we occupy here as human beings, the space that we occupy here as human beings and who we are, well, we are just a tiny speck. If you are just conscious about this, there is no need for humility, you will be fine. You know, I must tell you this, as a rule when my daughter was growing up, I made sure that nobody teaches her anything. I said, nobody should teach her anything, she will grow up by herself. Nobody should teach her anything. People said, what about 1, 2, 3, what about ABC, what about Mary had a little lamb? See, I said, no need for ABC, no need for 1, 2, 3, and I don't care whether Mary had a lamb or not. You just leave her alone, let her grow up. So she grew up like this, she did not understand that she's a child. She always treated everybody as equal, she called me by my first name, she called all adults like that, but she was just fine. Then I had to put her in school after some time because my travels went crazy. Then when she was about 12, 13 years of age, something happened in the school and it disturbed her. She came home and said, "You're teaching everybody so many things, you're not teaching me anything." I said, "See, I am not given to teach anybody unsolicited. And you did not enroll, you just landed up here. So now that you're asking, okay, sit down." I said, "See, this is all you need to know about life. Never look up to anybody." She looked at me like this, "What about you?" kind of thing. I said, "Especially me. Never look up to me. Because if you look up to me, the maximum that you will do is you'll take my picture and nail it on the wall. That's not going to do any good to you. If you see me just the way I am, it'll be of immense value. But if you look up to me, you will miss it. So never look up to anybody, never look down on anybody. You just see life just the way it is. Then you will navigate your way through life effortlessly. And this is all it takes. We don't need humility, nor do we need arrogance. Both are not needed. Why can't we just handle life as it is necessary?"
In your book, Death and Inside Story, you mentioned that there is no use abusing a body through medical interventions when doctors have left no hope. But what I have been taught as a leader is to constantly struggle even when defeat is inevitable without bothering about results. So as a military man, are the principles of Karma Yoga not conflicting with what you have said while dealing with our dear ones?
As a military officer, you're dealing with young lives. 90-year-old men are not in your force, so that's a different affair. Young men, however badly they may be mauled in a battle, still many times they're capable, depending upon their grit and their constitution, they may bounce back. Of course, you have the famous story of Field Marshal Manik Shah, of how he recovered from the machine gun fire and they'd given up on him and how he came back. So there are any number of stories like that because you are dealing with very fit, strong, determined young men. That is a different story. We are talking about trying to understand and come to terms that we are mortal. This life is mortal in nature. You cannot just think that you're going to live forever. A time comes where you must be ready to ease your way through. You must understand you come at a certain time and you go at a certain time. We don't want an untimely death, that is for everybody. Nobody should have an untimely death. But when the time is up, we must be willing to go. If we are not willing to go, we will definitely make it miserable for ourselves. Or if our children or their children are not willing to let us go, that will also make it miserable. So it's extremely important that we should handle both life and death with a certain wisdom, understanding the context. We are not here for good, that is fixed. Our time here is very limited and how we use this time is important. It is not about… life's quality is not going to be enhanced by simply stretching it by another few months or a year or two. It's not going to happen with enormous pain and, a nuisance for yourself and for everybody. It is not going to work like that. If you are observant of the life forces within you, you will see when life is not wanting to revive itself. You don't have to ask a doctor. If you just observe your own life forces, you will know when they're winding up. When they're winding up, you pump yourself with this, that and simply stretch it for a few weeks or months or whatever is meaningless. This is coming from a fundamental sense of ignorance, which unfortunately has spread around the world. But in this country, always when people came to a certain sense that, life is winding up, they would simply sit in one place and go on water diet and slowly go quietly peacefully, not stuck up with so many tubes and needles. That's not the way to go. It's very important that we live well and we also die well. And not only die well, because death is the last act that we perform in our life. It's important we die in style. It's very, very important for I know this may sound morbid to people. There's nothing morbid about our mortality. That is a fundamental reality of our existence. Only if we are conscious of this reality will we plan and enact our life in as beautiful a manner as possible.
Sometimes life puts you in a situation where you can't help being a certain way. Leave aside being right or wrong. The way I think and perceive is my way of doing things, but it may not be right for others. Who decides then what is the right way? And if there is one, what is the right way?
See, people who think in terms of right and wrong are too absolutist about life. Life is not about absolutism. It is all one inside the other, in the sense creation and creator are wrapped into the same thing. Here we sit here, this very body has been created from within. So this piece of creation and the source of creation are mixed up. Or let me come to a more mundane example. Right now, if you look at it logically, see, this right and wrong is because we have a linear way of thinking, looking at everything in terms of cutting it to pieces and say, okay, this and this, black and white, A and B, like this. So right and wrong. Let's say man and woman, male and female. See, right now if I ask you a question, are you a man or a woman? Well, whichever one you are, you will say that. This is absolute. I'm a man, I'm a woman is very clear. But how did you come here? Because a man and woman came together, you're here. So just because you're a woman, does it mean to say your father has made no contribution for you? Or just because you're a man, does it mean to say your mothers have made no contribution for you? Well, you are a mix-up of man and woman. On the surface, you are just a man or just a woman, but deep down, you're both, because how can you say that your mother or your father doesn't exist within you? They do. So, this what is right, what is wrong, people who think they are doing the right thing are always the cruelest and the most horrible people. Because a whole lot of people who think they are empowered by a divine authority, they have done the cruelest possible things in the world. So please do not think in terms of right and wrong. Our actions have to be appropriate to the situations in which we exist. What we did 1,000 years ago, thinking it's right, won't fit into today. You're right now seeing in Afghanistan, what they're doing right now might have been easily accepted 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, though it's horrible anytime, that's a different matter. But in today's world, it's horrific. Somehow the world is managing to look another way, that's a different thing. But it is not about right and wrong, it is about appropriateness of our existence in a given situation. When we act, any action we perform, we must know the consequence of this. My actions, will it bring well-being to myself and everybody around me? If this one thing, if you hold it within you, you don't have to worry about what is right and wrong. As long as your volition is inclusive, your intentions are inclusive, everybody's well-being is included in your intention, if you just fix this one thing, you don't worry about right and wrong. Do what is appropriate to a given situation. There is a there is a wonderful, like a parable kind of thing, how Vishnu handled this. So, he had two wives, one is Lakshmi, another is Alakshmi. Lakshmi means wealth and money, Alakshmi means poverty and lack of wealth. So, between them a competition arose and then they encountered him one day together and they asked, which one of us is more beautiful? So Vishnu looked at it, he knows whichever way it's trouble, whatever he says is going to be trouble. He looked at Lakshmi and said, see, when you are coming, you are most beautiful. To Lakshmi, he said, when you are going, you are extremely beautiful. This is appropriate action, not right and wrong. So, what kind of… do not judge people by their actions, because what is the intention, what is the volition is important. Can I tell you a joke, Colonel? Hello?
Please, Sadhguru, please.
No, because you guys are all so serious, I'm just wondering if a joke is allowed. So it happened one day, Shankaran Pillai went to the post office and he had a huge heap of pink-colored envelopes and he bought a whole sheet of stamps and he was sticking the stamps on this pink envelope, spraying perfume and keeping it on one side to mail. The postmaster saw this and said, "Hey, what are you doing? What are all these letters?" He said, "It's the Valentine's message. I'm sending love messages to 1,000 people, 1,000 men in the locality with signed, guess who?" He said, "Why would you do such a thing?" He said, "I'm a divorce lawyer." So, it is not about the action, it's not about the pink envelope, lovely words and perfume. It is the intention which matters. So you fix the volition of your life that it's always inclusive. Whatever you do, you're always seeing how it includes everybody's well-being, then you don't worry about what is right and wrong, you just do what's appropriate.
Sadhguru, today's children are very smart, aware and extremely competitive. Most of them are self-driven and are keen to deliver in an extremely competitive world. The only issue I see is that they are so obsessed to achieve success that they are not able to accept failure in any situation. Failure, they say, is a greater teacher than success. How do we teach our children to accept failure and learn from them?
I feel accepting failure is a dangerous process. You may get used to it. I know there's a whole lot of talk going on everywhere in all management schools, you can learn from your failure. I would say it's better you learn not to fail, because it depends what you're doing. You're in the forces. Failure may mean death. You can't learn after that. So it's extremely important that we should learn not to fail. But our idea of success has to be little engineered properly, because now our idea of success is about being better than somebody. Our idea of success is about a certain kind of lifestyle. That is why there is so much anxiety about if some things don't work the way we planned. The important thing is, we must understand the most precious thing in our life is life itself. There's nothing else we have. We may think we have many things, it's all psychological stuff that we think we have this and that. Right now, somebody thinks he has $1 billion, somebody thinks he has wealth, somebody thinks he has this and that. If we just fade his memory a little bit, everything disappears. So the only and only thing that you have is life. Keeping this in its highest possible way, most exuberant and effulgent way, if you keep it that way, this will not be a problem, because success and failure is not about one or two events that happen in your life. It is just that no matter what life threw at you, you knew what to do out of it. What life throws is not always our choice. What we make out of it is 100% our choice. If you're exercising this choice always, you are a successful human being, because then you will know how to be. This is the only creature which is being referred to as a being. We are not referring to a tiger and saying a tiger being or an elephant being or something else. Only this one is a being, because the success of this life is that you know how to be. If you know how to be, you will keep yourself in a most fantastic state of experience, because profoundness of experience is the most important thing. Right now, you may think your success will… whatever is your idea of success, maybe it is money, maybe it's a position, maybe it's an award, maybe it's something else, whatever is your idea of success, you think will bring profoundness of experience. Somebody thinks it's money, somebody thinks it's wealth, somebody thinks it's alcohol, somebody thinks it's a drug, somebody thinks it's love, somebody thinks it's knowledge, somebody thinks it's pleasure. But essentially, you're seeking profoundness of experience. Once you know how to sit here with a very profound experience of life, you are a successful human being. What we do in the world is according to the times in which we exist. This 21st century, we are doing a certain kind of activity. If we were here 3 centuries ago, we would be doing something else. If we were here 10 centuries ago, we'll be doing something totally different. So what we do is not all ours. It is a consequence of the times in which we exist. But successful human being means this, that you know how to be.
When I face an adverse situation, whether at work or in a relationship, I realize that I am aware of what is right or should be done, but I am not able to do it. At the same time, I am aware of what is wrong, but cannot desist from doing it. How do I overcome this constant challenge, and how do I control my emotions and thoughts?
See, whether you call somebody a lover or an enemy, both in war and love there is an opponent. How you deal with them is different, but there is a bit of you can call it a tango or a battle, but there is a certain dynamic. In both, you need some skill and some capability, otherwise it won't work. So, this aspect of life is being dragged into all kinds of things. One fundamental reason is, whether it's our career or our business or our relationships, we are trying to milk happiness out of it. The moment you attempt this, those your loved ones will slowly turn into your enemies over a period of time, because that's how it works. We must understand, human experience essentially comes from within us. Whether it's pain or pleasure, it comes from within us. Joy and misery comes from within us. Agony and ecstasy comes from within us. If we understand this, if we take charge of this, if we take charge of the seat of experience within ourselves, what experience would we cause to ourselves? Definitely highest level of pleasantness. So if you being joyful and loving is not enslaved to anybody, you're joyful and loving by your own nature, then every relationship will work well. Whatever sort of relationships you make, everything will work well. Whatever is your career or your business or your activity in the world, you will do it to the best, because there is substantial medical and scientific evidence today to show you that only when you're in a pleasant state of experience, your body and your mind will work at their best. For you to succeed in this physical world, this is all it takes, that you must have a few brain cells working properly and 4 limbs to do the things that you have to do. Without getting your body and your brains to function according to your needs, you will not be successful. You will only be successful sometimes by default or by accident. That is not a good success, because that success creates anxiety. It's very important, your success is rooted in your competence, your success is figured out in your mind. If this has to happen, it's very, very important that you're in a pleasant state of experience. That is, there may be many problems and issues outside, but you are never the issue in your life. This one thing you must take care, especially because India's safety and well-being depends on you. You should never be the issue. I know there are many issues. For everybody there are. For you, the issues are of a different nature, which could threaten life and it could mean life and death, but you should never be the issue. But right now the problem is, in most human beings' lives, their own thoughts, their own emotions are the greatest impediments that they are facing. If you just cross this one thing, you will see every human being will be able to perform to their fullest level, find expression to their fullest level. This is the whole science of inner engineering, how to make sure that you are not the problem in your life. Never, ever, I am the problem in my life. There are various situations, we will do everything to the extent we can. What works, works, what doesn't work, does not work, but this one is never the problem. This is something every human being must do. This is our mission.